and she married to my grandfather. And then later on the story, things happen, this and that time comes, and years later, my father meets Baba, and of course, Baba comes and visits us up north. My grandmother meets Baba, and of course, completely falls in love with him, and becomes a Baba follower too. Then this is the time, the story, the next part of the story is the time when there's mosque tours were done, mosque, the search for mosque and things like that. And my father had seen a mosque in Rishikesh. Rishikesh is again a small little town where the Ganges just freshly comes from the mountains and touches the plains. There's this beautiful place where there's only temples and things like that, and you people would remember the Beatles were there too. Yeah. And so the Maharishi Yogi who was there, who did yoga schools and all that. So that's the place. And so this mosque was there. And I had heard about him either through my father or through other people and things like that. So Baba was in Satara now. Baba sent a message to my father, I want that mosque to be brought to me, to Satara. But only that person can bring to this mosque to us who's completely free from any responsibility. If, anybody would have jumped for the idea to go to Baba. My father would have said, of course, I'll take this mosque and go. I don't need a chance to be with Baba. But Baba's order was, be honest, no responsibility, no in your mind. You should be completely free from any type of work. So my father said, I can't go because he used to deal in lands and some deals had to come up and there were some other problems were there too. Then he goes to Noshawan Narawala's father who does this Glow magazine. His family is from Dehra Dun to Heki Narawala. He goes to them. He says, yes, I'm free. I can go, but then there's little court cases going on. Should I? No. Baba's order. You have to be completely, nothing you have to leave for pending and then come. Then he goes here, there, Kishan Singh, this Babala, that Babala who was closeman. And none of them really could bring this mosque to Baba. And I'm talking about it's all happening in Dehra Dun, which is very close to Rishikesh. My grandmother all along, hearing all these plans, but my father is getting very frantic now, whom to ask, who should be free. My grandmother says, I'll take him. And my father never thought a woman will take the must. I mean, take must means what? In language, mad person. We understand must because of Baba, but otherwise they're like mad. No, that's impossible. Come on, you can't. And she had some problem with her eyes and all that. My father said, no. She said, listen. I'm completely free. What I have to do? You're gone, I have children, there's at home. I have nothing. She said, why don't you ask Baba? It's like again, Baba's game is going on. So my father said, okay. So my father sends a letter to Baba or telegram to Baba. There's nobody really completely free as you had ordered. But my mother and her age and this, and Baba had met her several times, and Baba was up north visiting Dehra Dun and all that. Baba sends letter. Yes, of course. As Mataji, Baba called her Mataji, means like mother with a G's with respect. Yes, I'm really happy. Let Mataji travel with him. Now, the second question is, but another order of Baba was not to tell us who's calling him and where he's going. So it's literally like you have to go on that place and drag him out of his place and make him stand up and take it. My grandmother, my father got ready one day to go to Rishikesh. It's like a couple of hours from our house. They go there, and my grandmother never saw him, met him or anything. It's my father who had saw him a couple of times. My grandmother goes, before she reaches the area, again it's like Rishikesh where the Ganges, it's all woods and things like that, and small temples and huts and all. She hears a same chanting, which as a child, 7 years old, she heard the same chanting and somehow same voice. It remained in her mind. That's why she used to tell us this story. And she hears and she knew it's him. It's the same when she was 7 years old, it's the same person. Even though it was way back in mountains, now it's in plains, So she goes, and of course it's the same person sitting again. There's this little duni fire in front of him. Exactly same as color gathering the ashes, throwing on him, completely nude, not a stitch on him. And this was, I think, around late 50s, something like 58, 59, maybe 60, around that time. I don't know, maybe I was almost 8, 9 years old. And so my father was really in panic. How to ask this person to get up and go? My grandmother knew. All of a sudden, she goes to him. She looks down. She says, Baba. Baba is not only for our Meherabad. Baba is father in other language, and in Persian or Hindu language and all that. She knew. She goes to him. She said, Baba, it's time to go. See, his meditation, his years of this thing, and now Meher Baba has called him, so it's time for him. So she just gives her hand to him, and says, Baba, it's time to go. And he gets up, and he comes. He was brought home, and I remember, seeing him, this with open hair, huge body, big person, big pot belly, walking completely nude, not worried about or anything. And somehow I didn't even see naked, so there was nothing naked about him. He was brought to our house, and it was 9th of July, one day before Silence Day. Early morning he was brought to my grandmother, and father, and he comes and he got this beautiful easy chair, like one of those big chairs. He sat down like a king, sitting there with his legs spread up and up. And we all girls and both, brothers and sisters just watching, my God, what's that? Yeah, but somehow so, and I don't remember him chanting those lines. He was kind of quiet, but he talked. My father asked him a question, do you want to eat something? He said, no, yeah, so whatever. Do you want to take bath or anything? We would talk. And then my father had to tell him that tomorrow is our silence day. Tomorrow is 10th of July. And we won't be talking. But early 11th of July, we'll be traveling, the journey will start. And that's why they brought him 9th, so they could, keep their silence. So he's sitting there. I remember my father gave me a fan to fan him. He was feeling hot because he was from mountains and he is in the city in town, sitting, and I'm fanning him and looking at him like that. And he just somewhere, his eyes are like completely, looking up somewhere. Anyway, 9th of July passes, 10th morning, he's not talking to. It's completely silence. No word from him, no, otherwise he will mumble or ask for something. Nothing. Whole household is quiet. Everything is quiet. He was given his food and all that. 11th morning, everybody, got ready. My grandmother and my father would take them to a railway station. And Sebab, told him to, but he was quiet. He wouldn't talk. He still kept his silence. Next day, 11th morning too. Anyway, he couldn't tell him to speak or something. Anyway, so they got ready. There was nothing to ready. He had nothing. He just had a kamandal. Kamandal is like a begging bowl, which is usually made out of either metal, 7 metals, or from pumpkin shell, dry pumpkin shell. I think his was metal bowl, this thing with a little handle. That's all possession he had. And I think he had some beads, some sandalwood or some rudraksh beads. He did have some string of beads. And that's it. And my grandmother collected something. My father bought a towel for him, a huge towel to put on his lap or cover him, when he's traveling. How could he go nude and all that? And a few things for him to, like food for the way and the water pitcher and this, that, other, whatever. My grandmother's little suitcase and bag and all that. And they were sent off. Now, the second story is that, which Money tells this part of the story now, which my grandmother told Baba and Mandali. The traveling started by train. They're going, yeah, what a sight. And as soon as they started, everybody started going. Because the other thing is, my grandmother was only 7 when she first saw him. He was old man, looked like in his 60s, 70s. Now my grandmother is in her 60s, and he's still in his 60s because I saw him too, and he was the same, exactly the same. So they look like a couple. So they're going in this train, and everybody thought this couple is there. This woman who is white sari, she was widow, so she always wore white, is in to make money, waving like that, and they're giving her looks on the train and things like that. And my grandmother is very uncomfortable trying to bring a towel, put on his lap, and he just And the train is passing by. Sometimes people make some remarks and things like that. A station comes. They were given the instructions not to get down anywhere, not to do this. Train goes directly to a certain place where they're near Satara, where somebody will meet them from Baba's, from His Mandali. So they both sat down. They didn't have to go out. They didn't have to eat, drink, and everything. And the station comes where a whole bunch of ladies with one man come in, and they said, my grandmother, then the man comes twice. He said, lady, cover your husband, I got all these young girls and daughters and wives with me and things like, what's going on here? So she got fed up. She was already given hints like she's making money on her husband or something. So here she gets up. She didn't try to explain that he's not my husband. He just said, you are covered, your wives are covered, your wife is covered, your daughters are covered, leave me and my husband alone. And she comes to him, and he's in completely silence. He didn't break his silence from 10 to 11 words. Those days journey used to be a couple of days long. She comes to him, and she's kind of fed up with him too. So she comes in, she said, do you know what's going on? Do you know what these people are doing? They all want to rob your commander, your begging bowl. So he looks in panic, he grabs that and holds that. And that's how he traveled till the end of the journey, holding that phone. Then comes their last station. He's never been told where they're going, because it was Baba's order to tell him where they're going. Anyway, when the station comes, he knew, of course. He just, before she could gather her belongings, he just jumps out, from the train, with holding his kamala in his hand, and starts running. My brother, wait, Baba, wait, And she gathered, how much she could. She started running. She said, wait, we were given instruction not to go anywhere. I have no idea where this place is, where we have to go. But somebody's meeting us here. The car will be coming for us. Just nothing doing. This king, just walking in the middle of the roads and things like that. Mind you, if something like that here would be big sight, but in those days in India, you still see people like that. So it wasn't like big deal. We've been called streaking. It was something for kids, this life was not that. So he's walking and she's running to my grandmother, a short lady.
Anyway.
I don't like competition. So they walking towards, he's just walking and she's following him. Crossroads come, and she's literally in tears and she's tired and carrying all these things in her hand. She said, now what? We're lost, we have no idea where we are and things like that. This king, he lifts his hand, wiggly points one side. She said, okay, go that way, where are we pointing? And they both started going that way. There's a Meherabad board is there.
Oh.
Yeah. So understanding then how the must are and how, like my grandmother's connection to all that. And he's there. Here, when he says, Baba, all the timings were given, that what time the train should come, what time the people will meet them, how it will take them to come here, then they will take wash, change, this and that, then they will come to Mani Hall to greet Baba. But no, that day Baba himself from morning was in not subtle way in moving around, and he asked me way before time to help him to dress up or whatever, give his clothes and way before the supposed to be time for their arrival, he was already ready in his best Darshan clothes, his pink coat, this, that, and sitting in his Mandali hall, chair and waiting, for him. And usually crowd would come first whenever there was a program to shown or anybody. Then Baba was brought late on because how long Baba could wait for. And no, this time Baba is waiting for him. And here he comes, straight to Baba. And first time he opens his mouth, the Baba says, with tears in his eyes, Mukti, liberation. Baba had to say it or something in a board of this or something. Baba pushed that on his head. And they meet. That's was the meeting, and then he must be sent somewhere with the other mas were there in Mahageshwar or whatever happened. My grandmother said she never came to know, but yet she had a great time there with Baba. She was there with 1 month with Baba and Satara. And in that time, Baba Baba had asked her, Mataji, tell me, what would you like to see? What would you like to eat? Would you like to travel? Would you like to visit? And have you seen this? And do you ever done this? And things like that. So my grandmother was telling us later on that it was really like how much love and care and time he was giving her. Anyway, her month passes with Baba and she comes back home. When she reaches home, as soon as she reached home, for those days the trains used to be all with the coal and smoke trains and all that, so she thought there's something wrong, something must have gone in her eyes, but she couldn't see. She started rubbing her eyes and burning and this, that, that. As soon as she reached home, she told my father, said, I don't know what's wrong with me, with my eyes. So he took her to hospital and doctor says, your mother got what do you call the glaucoma? As I said earlier, she did have some problems and things like that, but not so, it just progressed so fast, that whole thing developed so fast that unbelievable. And doctor said, she's going blind, she's blind. We can do some treatment, give her treatment, operate at this, that, other, but there's hardly any chances for her. But there's only one thing we can try, operating her eyes and things like that to see if we can restore a little bit sight or something. So of course, my father, he sends telegram to Baba. Baba Mataji just arrived home and she's not able to see, and doctor says she's blind, and so Baba sent her a beautiful telegram. Baba says, tell Mataji, after seeing me, what else she would like to see, what she wants to see. So when my grandmother was given this telegram, she refused to go under any treatment, and she lived till 75. She died from that time, completely in darkness, completely blind. Where I used to take care of her most of the time, it was like for me too, a little, to live with blind persons, to help out and things like that. I was kind of preparing me too, I guess, one way or other. So that's it. That's the little Baba's finished story, and we feel that whole family, because of her journey from that time, has brought us so close to Baba. So, yeah. Good morning.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I've never heard that story.
I know that. Dara?
I think I did.
Yes, do you have any story you'd like to share with us like that?
Well, I can't compete.
Don't compete!
No, see, I only had, my grandmother was Sharima and my grandfather was Shiraji. Other than that, unfortunately, they both passed away much before I was born, so I never knew them.
Maybe tell about when you were young and you met Baba, the darshan programs, or the games you played with Baba.
Yes. Well, of course, being born in Baba's family and being brought up in Ahmednagar, Baba was around. And of course there were times when I could go and visit him wherever, be it at Meherazad or Meherabad, wherever he would be. So I remember the times when we were I was to visit Baba. I was always sort of dressed up in my Sunday best, so to speak, and was instructed to be on my best behavior. And with all these instructions, I was ferried off to visit with Baba. Of course, I was, as far as I was concerned, I was going to visit my uncle, who just happened to be God. He was my uncle.
Every day?
Well, not every day, but quite regularly, yeah.
Having a father, an uncle who happens to be God, just, your everyday occurrence.
Right. And so, of course, I would be escorted into the room where Baba would be, and I would sort of try and be on my best behavior and act a little stiff. And of course, Baba would immediately home on to this. So he would gesture for me to come close to him. And as soon as I would get within Baba's reach, first thing he'd do is start tickling me. Of course, immediately, I was sort of wriggling and wiggling, and the next thing I knew, I was in his lap. And then, of course, he would, sort of make me feel comfortable. He would break the ice. He didn't want me to feel awkward and stiff in front of him. And then, he would ask after me, how I was and how my studies were going on. And then, of course, he'd say, Billy, let's play some games. And of course, Baba's games were simple, where one was where you hold out your hand, and the other person slaps it or tries to slap it, and you move it away before he could slap your hand. So it's Baba would play that for a little while, and then the other game was where you conceal the fingers of one hand and cup it in the other hand, and you're supposed to get hold of the middle finger. And of course, I could, when Baba would cup his hands, of course, I could never get hold of his middle finger. So, in fact, I remember that at one time, I protested. I said, Baba, it's not fair, you're cheating. He looked absolutely hurt. He said, look at him. He turned around and said, look at him. He said, he's accusing me of cheating. I'm God, how can I cheat? And I said, no, Baba, you're not cheating as God, you're cheating as my uncle.
What did he say to that?
He just laughed. Then one day I recall I was I was in school at the time, and it happened to be our lunch recess. And after having my lunch, there was always time left to play. And depending on which time of year it was, whether it was time to play cricket or football or spin tops or play marbles. So this was the time when it was the season for playing marbles. So I was out there with my friends in the schoolyard playing marbles, and I was standing waiting for my turn when I noticed Baba's car go on the road, which was just outside the school fence. And I noticed the car stop, and the front door was open, and somebody gestured to me to come. Of course, I recognized it to be Baba's car, so of course I immediately ran out of the school compound and went up to the car, and Baba was seated in the front next to the door, and he gestured for me to climb into the car, which I did. So the first thing Baba does is places his hand on top of my head, and I wasn't wearing any headgear. I didn't have a hat on, and it was hot in the summertime. So of course, I could see Baba was angry with me for being out in the sun without anything on top of my head. So, I said, sorry, Baba. So then, of course, his expression changed, and he smiled, and then he gestured to me. He said, marbles? I said, yes, Baba. But, winning? I said, fortunately I was. I had a pocket full of marbles. So I just showed them to Baba, and he smiled and patted me on the head, and he said, go back and finish the game. And that was it. But that was an early lesson for me, not obeying his order.
Had he given you an order to wear a headgear?
No, but it was a general order, not specifically to me, but of course it was, very much. He was very particular about covering one's head in the sun. And I was, aware of that.
What about the time when, brushing time and Baba asked you to help him to be prashad?
Yeah. This was now in 1954, when Baba had that darshan program. And
Where?
It was, well, of course, it was 3 weeks in total. Most of it was Baba at Meherabad, where also I would often be taken and get to see Baba. In fact, I remember when I'd be up there at Meherabad on top of the hill, sometimes Baba would play table tennis with some of the Western men who were there. There used to be a table tennis table under the awning in front of Mansari's kitchen, that tin awning. There was a table tennis table there, and sometimes Baba would come there and play table tennis with the men. So when he would do that, I would act like the ball boy. I would, run and fetch the ball and bring it back to Baba. Of course, each time I do that, I get a little pat on my head by Baba with his table tennis racket. And I just sort of, be there and just be part of the programs. But on this occasion, the Baba had a public program at Wadia Park in Ahmednagar, where thousands of people had come for the program. And I was there amongst the crowd. And then when it came time to take Baba's darshan, I joined the queue with the rest of them. So when it came to my turn to go up to Baba to receive his blessings and prasad, Baba gestured to me to sit on the dais by his feet and help him distribute the prasad. And I think it was bananas that Baba was giving out. So I did as he asked, but I just couldn't keep up with Baba. I wasn't fast enough, So after a little while, of course, Baba was disgusted with me. And he gives me a banana and he says, "Now go."
Did you eat the skin?
My father used to do that.
He did?
Darshan program, Baba gives sweets, all the Guru Prasad and all that. And people will open the sweets, eat and throw the peels here and there, and he would go around collecting them. For him, that's the part Baba really touched.
Right.
Yeah. And even today, my father's no more, but there's jar and jars full of these peels, there's wrappings, right, from the sweets, which later on, whenever somebody visited him, and they said, "Can you give us something touched by Baba?" And we don't have it. He just takes it out and gives it to us. Yeah. So he did that. Yeah.
How precious.
Yeah.
Dara, when you were really young like that, did it strike you at all odd that Baba didn't speak? Did it ever strike you as unusual, or was it just completely natural from day one?
Yeah, actually, it's a good question. Never ever occurred to me that Baba didn't speak. Baba wasn't done. No, never. Even of course later on, it was always as if Baba was directly, addressing me. Even though I could understand the gestures, somebody always, excuse me, it had to interpret them for me. But be it, my father, or be it my auntie, or Eric, or whoever would be there, it never ever felt as if it wasn't coming from Baba himself.
And so you had to pay your full attention to what Baba is saying. So the sound was not really, even though you, of course, each word you have to, but looking at him and things like that, me too, in later years in life. No, never.
As a child, of course, I had difficulty, just my ignorance. I just couldn't, sort of understand or relate to the fact that, I had God for an uncle. I would just of course have these very simple, sort of childish thoughts in my mind. I said, well, if Baba is God and he's my uncle, then of course, why don't you just wave a magic wand and let all my woes and troubles at school, be over with? Yeah, why do I have to face all this? But of course, it didn't really matter to me, whether he was God or not at the time, because even as a child, the one thing that put Baba above anyone else I knew was his love. I knew no other human being who was as loving and as kind to me as Baba was, and that's all really that mattered to me as a child. And then, of course, I of course would hear and see for myself, how Baba was looked upon as God by hundreds of people, even in those days, and how people would come for his darshan. So. But for me, actually, this made Baba like a celebrity, like a movie star. Yeah. Who I could brag to my friends about Baba. I'd say, this Meher Baba. Hundreds of people come to him. Yeah, he's my uncle. Yeah.
How did you feel when you went to England?
Of course, it was my own doing. I made the mistake of thinking that I want to go to England, that I would like to be in England. So, of course, I was sent to England. I just backtrack and sort of fill you in to the circumstances, in which I was brought up. My father, Baba's brother, Rahi, and my mother, who was Viloo's sister, they were just married for 11 months, because just within an hour or so of my birth, my mother passed away. So Viloo and Saroj brought me up, and they were my parents really for all those 13 years that I lived in Nagar prior to going off to England. My father, of course, was still in India at the time, but he spent most of his time with Baba. And then when I was about 5 or 6 years old, he remarried to my stepmother Franny, who you folks know. And I don't know for what reasons, but in 1955, 56, when I was about 10 or 11 years old, my father and stepmother moved to England. So once my father moved there, despite the fact that I was very happy with my life in Nagar with Viloo and Saroj and their children who were all my family, I just started to complain to Viloo and Saroj and say, well, I want to go to England, I want to be with my father. So eventually Viloo got fed up of my tantrums and took me to Baba and said, Baba, look, he's not happy here, he wants to go and be with his father in England. So Baba said, is that right? So I said, yes, Baba. So Baba said, okay, then, tell Viloo, you better tell his father to arrange for him to go to England. So of course, I was shipped off to England, literally shipped off, because I went by sea in those days. It was just mostly by sea. So, of course, on departure, I was very bubbly, I was excited, going off to the west. This was very exciting for me. But within a year or two of being there in England, I realized what an awful mistake I made. Sorry. And then, of course, I regretted my decision. And then, I'd send word back to Baba. I'd appeal to him and said, Baba, I'm homesick, I'm missing being there with you, I want to come back. And then Baba would say, no, you continue there, you be there. I'm there with you, be happy, my nazar is with you. And then he kept me out there for 15 years.
How old were you when you left?
I left when I was 13.
You came back at age 28?
That's right.
Just to marry off?
No.
No other reason.
No, he came back. He was 24 when we got married, and I went with him.
That's right. That's right.
And then he came
I thought he'd give me a reprieve at the time of the wedding. Oh boy, now at least I can come back to India. But he said, no, I just want you to take leave from work, come back, get married, and then together with Ahmed go back to England. But then, of course, he did give me a glimmer of hope, because
I was homesick.
but of course he told us that after he blessed us with the 2 boys, that he would bring them back to India. So I knew that it then made it possible for us to return, or for me to return back to India. So of course, I'm involved with it. Okay.
So you didn't go back for the last,
No, Michael, you see, we left to go back to England in January 69 we saw Baba for the last time on January 10th. And we left Nagar on the 11th to go back to England. And we'll say within 20 days, Baba dropped his body. We didn't come back. My father came back.
Baba had told us not to come back for 2 children.
Yes, even
afterwards we couldn't come next summer with you or any other children.
So you really started working at that, huh?
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Did you lose your sight in England?
Well, you see, the eye condition is such that you're born with it. So from the age of about 8 or 9 years old, it was sort of discovered that, I would someday lose my eyesight. But Baba's compassion was such that till the time that I stayed and lived and worked in England, I had probably about 50% of my vision left. And then when I finally came back to India for good, within about a year or so, I lost the rest of it.
So what year did you return?
In 73, came back to India in 73. Yeah.
So the first time I met you, you were only in India for about a year?
Yes, sir.
That's amazing. You were babies.
We had some babies.
You had babies. Yeah. I remember the tricycle.
So you went to stay at Villa, which is where I met you in 79.
That's right. That was my home for all intents and purposes. Even though I'd been away for 15 years, I always considered that as my home.
Right. Are you still there now? I don't know. I haven't been
No,
there since 79.
No, we have a different place.
So Venus has that home just to herself?
Yes.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I haven't been there for quite a while, so
No.
I'm asking us.
Of course, the main house is her home.
Yes.
And most of the out cottages, she just rented out now.
Okay.
She gives people if anybody wants to come and stay with her.
So she still does let people stay.
Oh yeah.
Yes, Michael. But of course, there's no real need. Not too many people need
Right.
to be there.
Ahmednagar, more time.
Yeah, towards Meherazad side now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just outskirts of Ahmednagar city and all that.
My father in the early 70s, he had desired although he lived in England all those years, he still had a desire that someday he would, in his old age, come back to India and settle back in India. So in the early 70s, just after Baba dropped his body, he acquired some property out of the Meherazad road. Some of you people may have noticed where the Parsi Tower of Silence is on the road going up to Meherazad. Well, this property is very close to that place. And there's a nice little story connected with this, because when he wrote to his sister Mani that he was interested in acquiring some property in Nagar, so could she be on the lookout for a piece of property. This particular piece of property that my father eventually acquired actually belonged to the Parsi Trust, where the Tower of Silence is. That's of course the Parsi sort of, I don't know if burial grounds is the right term to use, but that's where they take their dead. Because they don't bury their dead now. So anyway, this property belonged to them, but they needed some funds, so there were quite a few acres which they made into plots, and they were selling it. So Mani got to hear of this, and she decided that it would be a suitable area and affordable piece of property for my father to purchase. So she happened to actually mentioned this to Mehera, and Mehera said, well, Mani, try and get the plot which has the banyan trees on it. And the reason for that is that years ago, in the early 40s, Mehera remembered that one day Baba had taken her and the other ladies and had a picnic lunch under those banyan trees. So of course my father, through money, was able to get that particular plot of land. So we had this banyan tree, in our front yard, under which Baba sat with the ladies. And then of course subsequently my father built a house there. And after he passed away, I inherited that house, so we moved from Viloo to that place. And that's where we are. That's the story of that.
What's your favorite occasion with Baba?
My favorite occasion with Baba?
Both of you.
Well, I think my favorite occasion, it's ironic it should happen to be at the very last, when Baba was physically at his poorest. He was not able to even sit up, he was lying in his bed. But I remember this was the time that we were there, just at the wedding, or the days after the wedding. We were in his room, and Baba made Amrit sit on one side of his bed. He was lying on his bed, and I sat on the other side of him. And I remember just sitting by his side, looking at him. I was fortunate that I still had enough vision to look at him. But then Baba reached up to me and started to stroke my chin. And of course, I just got hold of Baba's hand as he was stroking my chin. And then Baba held my hand and then put it on his face and made me feel his face.
What was it like?
Every occasion was with Baba very special. But I remember when I was 3 years old, and that's how I remembered Baba. It was a darshan program in Dehra Dun. And I remember this huge big house, which of course I've seen later on too. Baba was sitting right in the middle somewhere there, and there were 2 doors on side. You had to come, take prasad, and take it darshan and go out from other way. And there's a huge queue. Just the time you must have seen a film where all the school children were carrying one big garland and carrying
Yeah.
That's the time. That's the things. I'm not part of that. Those were the children who couldn't speak or hear anything. That's in that school. But that's the day and that's the time it happened. Actually, I'm there in that film, and Meherwan and Jamshed by myself. So I join the queue. Whenever I was there, I come to front of Baba and take the shot from Baba. And Baba knew us that he was visiting often our family and living with us, and food used to go from our place. So he recognized me even though the crowd was people. He gives a little smile, did the prasad, took prasad, eating mine, and it was small soft candies, Indian sweet meats. It was so delicious that I joined the queue again. And that time it seems, I don't know, I was maybe thinking about food more than darshan. But I feel, that's great, and I'm glad I did that. So I come again, and again I'm in front of Baba, and take her this and give me a smile, and again. I just pretended like sort of it really didn't happen, and I took that whole thing went and just waited for a while and thinking he must have forgotten by now. Joined the queue again.
Oh my God.
And this third time, it was when I came, before giving prasad, before picking up that thing, he held my chin, put my hand to his hand, and shook me. You hear again, like saying that, And this time I went all embarrassed and all. Anyway, he gave me a nice big helping of prasad. And to think of that now, as you said, grab it when you get chance. It's love and this thing. And I was the only child who received that touch, this thing on this touch day. So I grew up with that touch and that feeling all along. And that was one of the most, and it's really touched, deep inside, like that feels, that experience. So
when you think about it, do you still experience that moment?
Yeah, what are you trying, like right now, like when yes, I was telling somebody last night, like as, when we talk with Baba, share about Baba, Baba stories and this time with Baba, in beginning, it's little, like you're more conscious about what you're going to say and how's that, but all of a sudden, you with him, because that's what you're doing. You're telling, how Baba moved and how Baba said, come and, sit next to him. And so it's like a mini version every time. And yes, I remember, that touch and that. One more thing, saying, Kath, I remember, one more thing I remember about Baba, like those 3 weeks, around 4 or 5 weeks when I was with Baba in 1968. Every afternoon we used to go to Baba's room and sit down there. And even Mehera used to tell me, don't do that. Baba is resting. Baba says, let her come, let her sit down. So I'll just go quietly, sit down, corner and thing. And Baba used to snore, but it was like cats purring, like, oh. And I still remember that it's so clear, so, that sound, it seems like it's happening inside you. It's things like that. It's the clap sounds and things like that, his touch, everything is like, you recognize it, you could close eyes, something, if you ever get that touch again, you would know it's his. It's there, of course.
When you first met him as a small child, did you feel like you'd always known him? And there you are, how wonderful, just complete acceptance?
That was there. That most of my childhood time is connected with him with the food and all that. Because like Dara said, he has favorite uncle who loves and things like that. My favorite person was when he gives something to eat every time. So that's what I grew up with. That his cottage was built very close to our house. It's still there. That place is there's a well and all that. And every afternoon tea we had to have with him. And I remember, not caring that to go and be with Baba, that special person, that was not there. Even that day too, when I went for prasad, till he gave me that touch and feel, then till something I felt inside. But otherwise, no, tea time and we would be playing or something, and all of a sudden I realized, oh God, I missed the tea. Everything would be there. So those were my stories. That's how I wanted to be with Baba. So I'd run, go to Baba's room. And so one of the things I remember when I all of a sudden realized, God, I'm late, nobody's around, this must be over. I'm really upset. I'm not going to get anything to eat. And I go there still, and Baba's sitting in the little hall, sitting there, my mother, father, my sister quietly sitting there, two gentle, sweet ladies there, and the other people. And I just go there and look around, and nobody's eating anything, everything is over, tea's over, plates are taken away, and I'm really upset, and almost ready to get up and go. And Baba said, look back, and I look back, there's a windowsill, and now that is one biscuit or banana scrap from me. Yeah, so I take that and go out. So, when I really felt that, even much later when I was going 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, that longing, that this thing that he wanted to see him again, he wanted to have that touch from him again. It started much later.
Did you talk last night about how he arranged your marriage?
Right.
Did you talk about how he arranged your marriage? Next week.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.